Yo, what is up, Bitcoiners, Bitcoin miners, enthusiasts, entrepreneurs, developers, anyone who's in the Bitcoin space watching this? Like, what's up? Hope you're having a good day. We are here with a friend of mine, Folk Does Crypto. He is a Bitcoin, he started as a Bitcoin mining technician, and now he manages and oversees the day-to-day operations of a 45 plus megawatt site in some undisclosed location in the United States. Really cool guy, and I'm really excited to just kind of get to know his story, hear from him a little bit about his journey, how he got into the position that he's in, and how he is operating and running a full-scale industrial mining site. So, going to be a lot of fun. We're going to dive in. Before we do, I've got a couple things I want to tell you about. So, here is the first one.
Join the Mastermind Club, a weekly gathering of Bitcoin miners sharing insights to help you optimize or build your mining business. Our community fosters open discussion and collaboration, connecting you with experts who can help you overcome challenges and find solutions faster. Every other week, we host the Mastermind Deep Dive, where industry leaders delve into the financial, operational, and optimization hurdles faced by miners like you. Brought to you by Bitcoin Mining World.
All right, you guys already know the deal. I made it super easy. Go to the QR code, scan the QR code at the bottom of the screen. Go to that site, join the Mastermind Club. It's absolutely free. We do, weekly deep dives into different topics within the Bitcoin mining industry, things from site optimization, insurance, taxes. I know that's the boring stuff, but we talk to developers, builders, mining site operators, and really try to understand the how-tos, the in and outs, the minutia of building, operating, and managing large-scale industrial mining facilities. Now, this isn't just for the industrial miners, it's also for the plebs. I'm a pleb, man. I'm not going to build an industrial mining farm, but if you want to learn how to mine Bitcoin, this is a great opportunity for you. The next thing I want to tell you guys about is the Undermine Heat Punk Summit, which is happening at the Space in Denver, Colorado on February 21st and 22nd. Go to the link there at the bottom of your screen or the link in the show notes of the video. I'm going to be there. It's going to be a great event. I'm seriously looking forward to this event, and I'm pretty sure I talked to Tyler. Well, I know I talked to Tyler, but I'm pretty sure that the tickets, like they're selling out really fast. They got like 15 tickets left, 20 tickets left, something like that. And space is really limited at the Space because it's a small venue. So not that many people are going to be able to go. I think we got like 120 max. So, get your tickets now, because if you don't get your tickets, you're going to be FOMOing in going, oh man, I really should have gone to that conference. So get your tickets now. It's going to be an incredible event. I'm really looking forward to it. The people from Brains are going to be there. We've got, Alex from Heatbit's going to be there. We've got Dane from Home Bitcoin, or we've got Dane from the Hash Rate House. We've got Bob from Home Bitcoin Immersion Mining Channel is going to be there, and so many others. Lux and Scott 9000 is going to be there. So many people. It's going to be a great event. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'll be there with my camera crew, doing some videos and taking some interviews and stuff like that. So come find me, say hi, meet me. I love to meet everyone. So it's going to be a great event. I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, get your tickets, denver.space/HeatPunk Summit. And the last thing I want to tell you guys about is we are doing a Bitcoin Mining World virtual conference. So this conference is March 11th from 8 a.m. Central Time to 6 p.m. Central Time. I think I have those dates, that time, right? Either way, it's all day. It's going to be a full virtual conference packed with all kinds of information, similar to our mastermind deep dives, but kind of amalgamated into one full day of workshops and training videos. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of information. And the best part is that all of our guest speakers are going to be in chat rooms and in the Space, so that you can ask your questions, get your questions answered, and really pick their brains on something. So if you want to talk to Bob Burnett about, how he operates his mining facilities, you can do that. If you want to hear him tell his story about the rabbits, horses, and elephants, you can do that as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of information packed into that whole day, and the tickets are only $21. Space is limited because Zoom only allows us to have so many attendees. So get your tickets now. Again, that's March 11th. It's going to be great. Another thing that we have going on before we get into today's episode is we are doing a happy hour in Nape this weekend. Well, I guess, yeah. So if this episode comes out during this week, we're doing a happy hour. So I'll share the information at the bottom of the screen, and or at the bottom of the screen, I'll share the information in the show notes. And if it doesn't come out until afterwards, I'll just kind of cut this whole section out, because now that I'm starting to think about it, I'm like, wait, is this going to be out by then? I don't know. Anyways, lots of things happening, lots of cool events happening in July. I'm going to be at Bitcoin Alaska. I'll be presenting there. Super excited because Alaska is my home state. I grew up in Alaska, and I'm really excited to see what innovations are coming out in the mining scene there. But enough with the to-dos, enough with the laundry list. Let's bring up Folk. Folk does crypto. What's up, brother?
How's it going, Trevor?
Hey, man, I'm living the dream without $1 in my pocket. I'm loving it.
There you go. That's the Bitcoin way.
It's the Bitcoin way. No dollars, all sats, baby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Did you buy that dip?
I cannot say I took advantage of this one. We were a little cash poor for this one.
Man, you got to sell the chairs. You sell the tires off the car. You sell whatever you can. You buy at the dip, man.
Yeah, you can see I still got a bed frame in the back. So
you could have sold the bed frame, man. Like, you don't need a mattress.
Nope. What's the point? Sleeping bags work just fine.
Exactly. Did you ever hear that story of the guy who he's like camping around the 50 states? So he like sleeps in a tent, you know what I mean? He goes to campsites, he stays at campsites, but he's literally like a Bitcoin millionaire, you know what I mean? And they're asking him about his Bitcoin portfolio, and he's like, yeah, I'm a Bitcoin millionaire, and he's sleeping in a freaking tent.
That you bring that up. That's one thing that I always find kind of strange is in no other fields ever, or in no other industries, are people going to feel comfortable asking like, "Hey, how much money do you have? How much money do you have?" But as soon as you mention Bitcoin to anybody, it's like, "Oh, how much do you have? How much do you have?" It is kind of strange like that. But no, I have not heard that story. But just like they say, there will be signs if I make it,
Yeah, for sure. You bring up a very good point, man. Like the OPSEC, it matters, like just so everybody knows, like I don't actually own any Bitcoin, because I lost my Bitcoin in a tragic accident where I had my hardware wallet on me and the backup to the seed as well. So, it was a terrible event. I'm still trying to recover. But yeah, like that is a very good point. People are all too ready to talk about how much Bitcoin they have.
100%. 100%. I really think it kind of negates the whole point of the service and kind of goes against the core principles of the ecosystem itself.
So wait, folks, you're telling me you're not gonna tell me how much Bitcoin you have?
Not today. Not today. There may come a point in which that information is spread, but it's gonna be a while.
He's like, but it won't be me spreading it. Someone's gonna.
It will not.
Me.
Yes, sir.
I love
That's
it.
a leaked wallet.
Don't share your Bitcoin balance, people. Come on, nobody needs to know. Everybody just needs to know that you buy Bitcoin and then you lose Bitcoin, and then you teach people how not to lose their Bitcoin, right?
Learn by example.
Exactly. Well, shit, man. I just want to say thank you for coming on the show today. I think it's important for us to highlight, the different roles and job descriptions, I guess, job titles and again, roles that people can have within the Bitcoin space. And Bitcoin mining is super important because we facilitate transactions. We create new Bitcoins. Everybody's all talking about how Bitcoin is this great thing, but without Bitcoin miners, none of this would be possible. And what you're doing is a very important job. I'm curious to kind of learn your story. So let's take it all the way back. You're kind of young looking. You might be, a little younger than me, maybe a little bit older than me. But how did you, what did you do after you graduated high school? How did you find yourself in this position? And, just tell us the story.
Well, yeah. So currently I'm 23 years old. I got into crypto when I was about 19. Right out of high school, I was working in restaurants, same as my junior, senior year, kind of just normal stuff. College was the farthest thing from the route for me. Was not a fan of school in the slightest. As soon as I was able to earn some cash, that's where I was. I was at work as much as possible. I actually got into crypto and Bitcoin from some extremely degenerate stuff. I got into it over gambling.
Oh,
Um, yeah, right. It's something that I advise against significantly, but I did okay for myself, especially for a 19-year-old. Get a few $1,000s, you think you're at the top of the world. So somehow I was smart enough to um, do a little bit of research and learn what this Bitcoin stuff really was. It's a little bit too much money just to throw down the drain. So really, ever since then, I just started doing a deep dive into the technology and what its use cases are. Is this just some magical internet money like you always hear about, or is there some inherent value to this code? Like we all come to learn, there is some value, and the last 15 years just continue to prove that. But to actually get into the mining space, once I started going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, started looking at YouTube videos, doing research in my private time. Actually, my uncle is a welder. He ended up getting a job at a welding shop in a town about half an hour away from me. And across the street from that was about a 20,000 square foot warehouse where a Bitcoin mine was being opened up. It was being opened up by people that were new to the industry. It was in that 2019, 2020, right after COVID. Hey, what's this Bitcoin stuff? Kind of starting to move back to the upside. And it was an insurance Mongol that gave somebody a whole bunch of cash, said, hey, figure out this Bitcoin thing. They were looking for containerized solutions and just somebody that could build racks. They just so happened to be across the street from a metal fabrication welding shop. And when he came in, my uncle just so happened to help him out and asked him what he was doing. And he's like, "Wait, I think my nephew knows a little bit about that Bitcoin stuff." Just like, "Oh yeah, why don't you give him a call? Have him come up here." And I remember pretty clearly actually. I was gonna go hang out with some friends that day. Completely forgot about the interview that I had planned. About 30 minutes out, I was at a gas station filling up with gas, grabbing some snacks, about to head over, and I was like, you know what, I should take advantage of this. Let's go see what all this is about. Ended up being the best decision that I've made this far. Led me down a path where I've met some amazing people, including yourself. It was a lot to learn at the past location that I was at. It was a small 2 megawatt site. They were buying S9s in 2020, 2021, so weren't making the best decisions by any means. But it was as soon as that ban hit China, and they just loaded up. I mean, S9s were making $2, $3 a day, and you can get them for $100 if you can get them plugged in fast. It was a couple month ROI. In theory, everything works great, but when you actually try and put it into practice and take it off the paper, you learn that things aren't as smooth as you might have thought.
yeah, absolutely. This is an incredible story. Like you were flipping burgers or whatever it was you were doing after high school, just working in a restaurant, and just randomly, serendipitously, pieces aligned for you, and now you're doing
100%.
something that a lot of people can't even claim that they've done that cool of stuff. I mean, bro, you're managing a 45 megawatt mining facility. Like, that's how many miners are in a 45 megawatt mining facility?
Oh man, I think we're sitting at a little over 1,200 right now.
Mhm.
And I mean, as anybody knows, it's the actual power draw is going to range depending on how hot it is. So here recently, it's been nice and cold. It's been a little low, but surprisingly today popped up to 80 degrees, and it sent us flying. And
Mm.
we were popping breakers and the whole nine.
Yeah. So I mean, you started with, I mean, the bare bones basic knowledge of how a Bitcoin miner operates. I mean, maybe you didn't even know how a Bitcoin miner worked. Tell us the story of, like, what was the role that you took when you first got hired on, and what has that journey been like to becoming the manager of the facility?
Yeah. So initially, I was the first local hire on site. They flew in a couple other people from some reputable companies to kind of get them afloat, but they took on more management positions. Um, I really, my first day, I was unboxing totes, setting miners on the ground and counting them. I mean, it was something that simple. I never would have thought my first day that I'd be touching anything like a management software like Foreman. I saw the guys that they flew in getting Foreman set up, and they were starting to explain it to me. I was like, oh well, I'll never be touching that. So like that's that high up stuff. I'm just going to be moving boxes around, right? But it started off super simple and to the point where they teach you how to plug them in, test them. What are you looking for? You start reading logs. They show you what to look for inside of the miner logs to signify errors, such as a simple fan or a PSU sending out the incorrect voltage. Can be something really insignificant. But it got to the point where that was actually, so I've been at, this is my second mining facility that I've worked at. This one with the S9s, I was there for about 2 years, and they ended up closing up shop in 22, I think, in 22.
Can you discuss like why they had to close shop? Because there's a lot of reasons why a mining shop would close down.
Yeah, really, it wasn't. Like I said, it was people that were not from the industry, that didn't have a background in the industry. It was coming from an insurance mongol that had a whole bunch of money but didn't know how to deploy it, and they deployed it in like tens of thousands of S9s in like the early 2020s.
Very poor decision.
Very poor decision making, and it just comes from ignorance. It's mistakes that a lot of people make, especially in bull markets. I'm sure we're going to hear a whole bunch of horror stories in the next couple of years once this bull's over. People that over leveraged when they were starting up a mining business during this time. You're paying $5,000-$6,000 for an S21 that's now worth $3,200. They were spending $240 on an S9 that we were trying to sell them, and people said they would take them if we give them $5 a unit. It's like it was more expensive to, like, it was cheaper to throw them away than to sell them. They had a good hope. They tried their best on it. They just weren't well suited. This
is a story that I want to highlight because Bitcoin mining is probably one of the most cutthroat industries that you will ever get involved in. And it has nothing to do necessarily with the people that are involved in Bitcoin mining. It has to do with the way the network, works out in the wash. If you are not making, good decisions, informed decisions from the very beginning, you're destined to fail. And this is why we've seen so many mining facilities fail.
100%. Yeah, it's not. I hate saying try and time the market because it's impossible. Anybody that tells you otherwise is lying, and nobody can see the future. Nobody has that crystal ball, but you can pay attention to, like, hey, is this a brand new unit? What happens most of the time when Bitmain releases a new unit? It makes a whole bunch of money for the first few months. They start over manufacturing. If somebody comes up and asks for 50,000 units and they have them, they'll sell them. They don't care. Their money's green. As long as your money's green, Bitmain will work with you. So what will happen is a lot of people will be over leveraged on new machines. They think they have the newest and greatest unit. Network hash rate doubles, and then you're making a quarter of what you thought because Bitcoin's down 20% on a Friday. It's overestimating income and spending too much money on assets, and over hiring was a big issue at the last place. Myself included, like, I didn't have the qualifications to be working. I'm beyond blessed and grateful that they took the chance. I was able to learn a lot, but it making some of these decisions can really set you off in the wrong path. By the time we were finally able to convince them to get a few S19s, they still paid $10,000 a unit. If you're paying $10,000 for a 95T, I mean, look where they're at right now. You go buy one on eBay for 180. I just sold one for 240. So you'll personally, if I were to do it, I love the hosting aspect of things opposed to large self-mining. You have to have so much capital to make a self-mining location work out in the long run. You have to be able to sit through those bears and make sure your power is cheap enough to where you guys can still learn or earn a livable income. hosting is the most steady form of income in the industry. I mean, there's nothing else like it. You're just selling power. You're have people contracted in where they have to pull X amount of kilowatts per month. And if they pull under it because they don't want to send you parts to replace their machines, or their machines go bad and they don't want to replace you, they still have to pay as if that machine was hosted. It's really is just the safest way to run an industry. I think it's great to merge it in with some personal mining,
I
but
think,
hosting
you know,
saves.
there's something to be said about hosting being very safe, from an operator perspective and also from the client's perspective. However, something we've seen in the past, this has been a prevalent idea, thought, or example in my experience, and what I've been hearing from a lot of people is the bar for hosting is really low. Like you have, and we're not going to name any names here. I'm not here to call people out, but you have some companies that are offering hosting, and they're doing some shady things. They have some shady practices. They could be stealing your hash rate. They could be, using your machines in other processes, not taking care of your machines. And then you have, other companies that are really priding themselves on what they're building and how they're doing it. So again, this goes back to do your own research. Don't just ape into something. If you're going to pay $20,000 for a company to host, 3 or 4 machines for you, make sure that you kind of learn how that operation, like how that facility operates and how those people are working to maintain and keep your rigs in peak condition. And then also, try to learn some of the back end. I think that's really important.
100%. I mean, anytime we've had a hosted client, they're making site visits. If you're going to be hosting a large amount of units and you're not even going to take the time to fly out to the site where your miners are going to live for the next X amount of years, however long you're contracted for, you're not doing it right. You're not taking advantage of if a site is telling you no, you can't come, that should worry you. Any site that's worth a damn is going to invite you out and want you to come out and see where your units are. They're going to be proud to show you their location. Really, I mean, I agree with everything you said there. You can really put yourself in a bad position if you go with the wrong hostie. But making sure that your contracts are in order from the operator side, from the site owner side, as well as from the client side, to make sure that there's clauses put into place. So like, hey, what happens if Bitcoin dumps to 20K tomorrow? Like, my miners aren't going to be making any money. Do I still have to pay you? It's like there's got to be this safety zone. I think what a lot of people fall into as well is accepting miners on long-term hosted contracts, and then the machines that they took in, they expected to make a profit for longer so their clients would be able to play them. So it's definitely not like the end all be all to safety. You're 100% secure. I just think it increases your likelihood of being successful if owning a industrial scale mine, if you can host alongside with doing some self mining.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to pay for your power. You have to pay for your OpEx. There's, rent. Maybe you own the facility, but you're still going to have to pay taxes. You're still going to have to pay for electricity. You have to pay to, hire employees who are going to, manage the facility. And those employees can cost anywhere between $50,000 to $80,000 a year. So there is a lot of operational expenses that come into it. So if you're, we've seen this a lot. If you're selling your Bitcoin to pay for those operational expenditures, then you're losing out on that price appreciation that you would gain through holding it through time. So these self-hosting facilities, the best part is that your clients are paying you in fiat. You don't get any price appreciation for fiat. So what do? You use the fiat to pay your bills. And, so I know, I specifically know somebody in my home state of Oregon who is building out a hosted facility through, he's working with a hosting business, and he's working with them to build out one of their sites, but he's also, got some slots for himself to run 50 to 100 miners himself. And he does that. He pays for his electricity and all of his operational expenditures with the hosting contract. And then all of the Bitcoin that he mines stays in the Bitcoin wallet, and he gets to appreciate that through time. So, that's very important that you highlighted that.
For sure. Yeah, that's the ideal way to do it. And I think everybody going into the mining game is hoping that they're going to be able to hold on to their coins and they're not going to have to sell everything to pay bills. It's just it, the market's crazy. The market's crazy. It's there's nothing else like it. I mean, you hear it compared to the energy market, which being in the mining industry, you do see how volatile that is as well. I mean, there's plenty of sites that get some crazy restrictions placed on them, or there was an issue somewhere on the grid where they're out for 3 weeks when they've got bills to pay. Like they were relying on their miners to be on, or their price per kilowatt hour 5x's, and they're like, well, hey, you'll get rebated on it once it's over, but I don't know how long this is going to last. Like there's all these, you still got to pay. You still got to pay. So what do? You shut down. And then you're hoping that you didn't, maybe it was only going to be a week. You know, there's no promises to any of this.
Yeah, it's super important just to highlight all this because, you know, like a lot of the people watching this are like thinking to themselves like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool to be a Bitcoin miner? Like, yeah, and in some sense, but you know, as this conversation is going to highlight, there's a lot of stress that comes with being an operator of a Bitcoin mining facility.
Well, for sure. I like to say it's like this. It's the most stressful, unstressful job there is. It's like you're gonna have days where everything's running great. You've got like 3 miners that are on 0 hash and they just need a fan change. You're gonna get to them by lunch, and then you're just monitoring for the rest of the day. And then you'll have another day where it should be in the 40s. It's actually 80 degrees, and you've got a 23-mile-per-hour wind gust coming out of the north. That's what happened today, and it decided to send all of our miners into low power mode. We've got miners rebooting. We got breakers being tripped. I mean, it can just throw you for a loop. And we're in early February. We're breaking temperature records, and something like that can just send you into a complete manic run. Get all the exhaust fans turned on. What can we do? What can we do? It can get extremely stressful, especially in times of deployment. Deployment, I've noticed, is almost always the most stressful time around site. You get 5,000 boxed brand new ASIC machines. They're 35 pounds a piece. You have to hire a whole bunch of temp workers, which a third of them aren't going to show up on the first day. The other ones are going to leave by lunch, and the rest are just messing around on their phone. It's extremely hard to find this type of work. I was looking back at one of your previous episodes with Abacus, and he mentioned like a lot of these sites are in rural areas where the techie computer guys aren't really around. You're more getting Farmer Joe.
Yeah.
And I really resonated with that because it is. I mean, you go to, like, everybody thinks it's these high tech locations, but no, it's just a whole bunch of guys that know a little bit about computers and really like the idea of some sovereign currency. And it attracts the strangest but most enjoyable people to the industry.
Dude, all you need for a Bitcoin mine, whether it's one miner or, you know, 5,000 miners, you need electricity, you need Wi-Fi, and you need a cooling solution. That is it. You figure out how you want to do it. You could, like, I heard a story with Rob Warren the other day. We were talking about there are sites that are literally in the middle of, you know, Timbuktu with racks, open air racks. They're outside in a place where it's green. Man, you know it rains, but you got 40 miners sitting on rocks outside plugged into a transformer. Like I hate to say it, but there's not really that much sophistication that comes into this. It's very simple, just like here's a thing. It requires electricity and Wi-Fi and cooling. Plug it in, figure it out.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can tell just by looking at the containerized solutions that we have today. They're the exact same ones that we had 8 years ago. They're just a little bit shorter, and they hold a few less spots because miners pull triple the power now. Yeah. I mean, it's the exact same thing. There's hardly any innovation in the space when it comes to air-cooled mining. I think that's why the industry is pointing more and more towards direct-to-chip hydro cooling and immersion mining, because we're getting to the point where these chips are just getting too small and they're too hot, where air is just not really doing the trick unless you live in that ideal environment. Heard you say from Alaska. I'm sure they'll do all right up there, but here in the South, they just don't really cut it. You're going to have a 105-degree day and you're going to be crying.
See, man, because I mean, we know from experience that these chips have thermal variance. Like, too hot and it stops hashing, too cold and it stops hashing. Like that's why nobody's mining in Antarctica right now, because it's too fucking cold.
Yeah, it what's crazy is you think they'd have it lined out by now, at least in Bitmain stock firmware, but you have to utilize things like Lux, Brains, Finet. You have to use these aftermarket firmwares. We've recently been using Lux, and Lux has this cold start function, which is like night and day. It's like the most obvious thing. It's like, hey, if chip temps are reading 20, 30 C, maybe we don't give it full juice right away. It's like it's like something as simple as that is like mind blowing. It's mind blowing innovation. You're saving cards. You're saving plastic.
Yeah.
It's can be something that simple.
Yeah, people don't think about it, man. Again, like you said, it's is most of these guys doing this are Farmer Joe, and they just figured out what Bitcoin is, and they barely understand it. Like
Yeah, that first site that I was working at, we had this. I don't even know the manufacturer of this container that we had, but it was some weird Timbuktu looking container, and the owner of that previous site built a hot aisle out of pallets and tarps. He busted out a drill, just drilled some pallets together, stacked them up real high with some tape, like literally duct tape. You're taping like 2x4s to connect pallets to make some sort of wind tunnel, and then feeding it out of a 4x5 door. It's not the most innovative industry by any means.
no, a lot of people are just like, hey, number go up. Let's make some money here. So like
Plug it in.
for sure. So kind of tell us, how did you end up in the position that you're in today?
Yeah, so the position I'm in now, to title gets thrown about either way. I'm either a technician one day or assistant manager the next, so whichever one you want to choose. But the last place that I worked at, when they shut down, it was it's kind of devastating, honestly. Like I said, I come from the like food industry. That's all I got behind me besides this Bitcoin stuff. Once they shut down, I didn't know what I was going to do. Luckily, the boss, I got in really good with one of the head guys over there that they picked up, who worked for the local utility company for about 20 years. And he made a lot of connections in my local area. And he was able to find another location that just so happened to be opening up. And I was able to get me a position up there. Once I got up here, it was from the ground floor. They already had, I think, like 5 or 10 megawatts of containers sitting out there, but they weren't energized. Cable tray wasn't ran yet. I was doing everything from wiping down racks with a rag to building cable tray for the electricians to put up. When you kind of wear a few different hats when you start up a mining site, I mean, you think about the most minute things that end up being your 2 or 3 days worth of work that you're put on, that seems like a task that maybe somebody else should be doing, but it's something the technician's working on. But yeah, it's a little bit farther away from my hometown, which was a little bit of a deciding factor on it. Hoping to be moving up a little bit closer soon, but that's how I landed the gig that I'm at currently.
Mm-hmm. And so you're assistant manager for the gig the mining facility that you're at. What are kind of your day-to-day roles now, and how do you help optimize the facility?
Yeah, so my day-to-day roles now is, first thing when you get up there, it's logging into your management software, Foreman, Brains Manager, whatever you use. Get in there, you're looking to see what your uptime is, what's going on. Most of the time, you've got alerts set up to where if a rack goes not updating because a switch goes down or something, you're going to be notified overnight. So you're either already on site by 3 a.m. or you got up there real early and you know what your first task's going to be. But it's knocking out those first few things, seeing what you got to do. I like to try and get in there a little bit early so I can get things prepped before the rest of the crew arrives on site. Once you diagnose some of your zero hash units or whatever you've got going on, I like to start making a list of which units need repairs. Break it up into different sections. If it's a simple fan replacement or a PSU replacement, or maybe you have to swap the whole unit out. A lot of the time, if you have to swap a whole unit out, there's a little few extra steps that you have to do with the management software, and messing up one of those steps can cause you a couple hours. If you say you're putting a miner in one spot and really it's somewhere else, it can really throw you for a loop when you go back and try and repair it in the future. So I'll try and cover those things. It can be testing different aftermarket firmwares, comparing them to see the efficiencies on what settings to implement into it, doing simple research on bugs that are popping up in these aftermarket firmwares or in stock firmware. Just you get up, do a site walk. But I wish I could make it sound a lot more appealing, but it kind of is. You get into just this rhythm of doing the same thing every day, and time kind of just flies.
When it gets exciting, that's when it gets like, oh shit, we're not making money.
Yep. Yeah, and then that's when it's like the most stressful, unstressful job. It's like in the morning you get there, everything's going good, and then all of a sudden you're getting notifications that stuff's going down. You're actually running out there because you don't know what's going on. Is this something that's going to spread? Do you need to turn something back on? Are miners running, but you've got exhaust fans out? Really, that a lot of my days have been spent recently on just exhaust fans. Anybody that's working at an industrial facility and using any of the large container manufacturers is going to be able to tell you that exhaust fans are a problem in the industry. Mm-hmm. You'd think that it'd be one of the most basic things for making a air cooling thing is to, hey, let's at least make sure these CFMs match up so we're not getting a whole bunch of back pressure. But we have exhaust fans going down like crazy right now, so that it's figuring out how many people do we have on site today? Is anybody sick? What type of work needs to be done? Where do I need to deploy who to get X amount of work done? It's trying to best utilize everybody with their own specific skill sets. We have people that come more from like a construction electrician background who also do mining on the side. Like, yeah, if you give them a list of fans to go change, they can go change a fan on a miner. But mainly they're like, hey, we just had a PDU blow up. What happened? And they'll go out there and fix that, replace some capacitors. But yeah, I mean, that's really the day to day. Go hit lunch, come back on site, kind of go through your checks again, see what else you have going on. Or any of your clients talking to you? Are they asking for any specific miners to have work done on them? One thing a lot of you're talking about hosted contracts earlier, a lot of people signify how long a miner can be offline for. It's like, hey, if a miner's sitting here for over 2 days not fixed, that's kind of a problem. Mm-hmm. So it's looking at how long has this miner been offline, identifying which machines need to be focused on first, which get the most attention today, and there's just so many different variables that can change your day around. You're going to go in with this great plan of getting all this stuff done, and then noon hits, you haven't done anything that you wanted to work on. You've been pulled all the way to the left side, and now you're just stuck scrambling, trying to catch back up, playing a lot of catch up.
Sounds like a day in any job, really, man.
It really is. It really is.
It sounds very like mundane when you put it that way, but I know that it's not like as simple as you're making it out to be. Like, there are, like, when it gets stressful, it, like you said, gets very stressful. Could you tell us some of, without like naming names or anything like that, tell us some of the biggest problems that you've run into through your experience? Like, what were the most, like, have any transformers blown up? Have any switch gears gone off, like, blown up? Like,
yeah, I mean, really, the issue falls back on the containerized solution manufacturers. I mean, I touched on it a little bit earlier, but the biggest issues by far are these containers, and the issue is even more that we keep buying them, even though they have these problems. It's like we identify these problems and like, well, we need to plug in some more miners so this works.
So go buy this container. It's like, but we've had so many problems with that container.
Yeah, that's it. You look at cost effectiveness opposed to going with another solution that is going to be better, but they've got a price tag that's almost double the competitor. You just can't beat it. And the thing about it is it works. It works. we've been having we had a network guy come in to help out with this expansion building out the or expanding the network, and he's like, man, I tend to be on the side of if it's not broke, don't fix it.
That's it.
But if it's not working right, then it's broke. If it just kind of works, that means it's broke. So I personally would love to see some changes made in these containerized solutions. There are a few names out there that are making strides and making improvements slowly, but you'll see as you use enough of them, everybody's got their pluses and minuses, and that's why it's really hard to fault just one containerized, like one manufacturer specifically, because it's not just them, and people are still buying it, so they're making a product that people want. So you can't fault them for it. But yeah, having switch gears blow up, that's a little much. We've had some like 1200 amp breakers trip, and that'll shake the office. That's about 90 yards away. Yeah, you hear something like that pop, that gets everybody out of their seats. Chairs are flying.
What just happened?
Let's go. I've got an electrician on my phone, and Buddy's got an electrician on his phone. Hey, we need everybody out here right now. What's going on?
Yeah. I heard a story one time. I can't remember the size of the transformer, but it was in a metal building. The transformer was on the side. You know what I mean? Outside, and it was like right next to the building, and it blew a hole through the side of the building into the building, and like you just see like there's a video, and you can't see the transformer itself, you can't see like the room where it blew the hole through it, but all of a sudden you just see like orange sparks just start flying, and you see like 15 dudes just run out, and everybody's standing there watching it, and you just hear it just like and then you see the pictures, and it's just this melted transformer. And I'm not sure exactly why it happened, but it seemed like they were pulling way too much juice, and things got really hot, and it overloaded their circuitry. So it's kind of a scary thing.
Yeah, no, and that can happen. That can happen. That's one thing that a lot of people forget and don't really tend to think about too much when they're going in here, is how dangerous this field really is. I mean, the amount of power that you're playing with, you're powering a town, like of 10, 15,000 people. You can power a town with your 4-acre site, in such a small footprint. And all of that's right. You're standing right next to it. When you're pulling a miner from the top row of the rack by a PDU, your shirt's scraping up against a PDU. PDUs blow up sometimes. You have a short somewhere, and it can be an issue with the manufacturer. Maybe you're running it too hot. There's all these things, just like you're saying with that transformer. It could have been pulling more than that 80%, and the transformer said, hey, I told you I don't like that. And then it decided to throw a little fit. So there's all sorts of things you can run into, but no, that's another big thing to focus on is safety. And if you're getting a new type of container, what safety measures do you need to take to keep your guys safe? What measures do you have to take to keep yourself safe? At the end of the day, it is just Bitcoin. It's not worth your life. We all love it, but it's not worth your life in any sense. So that's one thing that you'll see that's really scary. Getting these kind of like Farmer John people out here. You're coming from a hardworking group of people that are going to come out here with the idea like, I'll get it done. I can make it work. And sometimes that's it's not the case. It's like, hey, don't touch that. It's like, be willing to pay the proper people to come out and complete the job.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes back to that episode I did with Abacus. It's like, yeah, when you're working on your Ford F-250 1980 style truck, and you want to take a pair of vice grips and crimp or vice the exhaust back on or the manifold on, it's like, yeah, that works fine, great. You're not dealing with 1,000 amps of electricity, like
big deal.
Stuff can kill you. And there's a reason why when you see people working in data centers, like flipping breakers, they're wearing full PPE gear, and they have another guy with a hook ready to pull that guy off the breaker just in case he gets stuck. And what I mean by stuck is it starts to electrocute you, and it like paralyzes your entire body.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a reason you're dealing with high voltage, you're dealing with high amperage, you're dealing with the amount of power, like you said, to power an entire city. This is enough power to kill an army of people. You know, it's not something to just scoff at when it comes to safety. It's like, yo, like take every possible like safety procedure serious. Don't skip. I see so many people skipping corners, like just trying to save money here and there, and it's like there are some places where you can save a little bit of money, and you can, you know, do a couple of things that are a little bit, yeah, you know, but there are others that like could literally cost you your life.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not worth the risk. And from my experience, from what everything that I've seen working in like an industrial sized mine, that they understand this. They're coming from running other businesses. They know how safety works. They're not going to ask you to do something that you're incapable of. They're not going to put a task in front of you that you can't achieve. It's so that is one thing that you don't. That's not something you hear about a lot. It's not popped up in the news like Bitcoin miner dies. So
Yeah.
which is excellent. It's excellent.
No, that's
Let's
a good track
keep
record.
that going in the community. Let's
Yeah,
keep that going.
let's keep people safe and alive, man. That's super important. Well, you know, I want to ask, knowing what you know now versus what you knew when you first started, you know, what are some things that you would have done differently? Would you still continue to work in this field? Are you enjoying what you're doing? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I honestly I couldn't see myself doing anything else at this point. I mean, it's I'm blessed enough to have made taken a hobby and turned it into a career, solely on chance and blind luck, which I acknowledge and I'm very grateful for. It's an opportunity that many aren't able to experience. If I were to go back and do anything differently, um, man, it's hard to say. When I got into this, I was like 19, so it's to say, yeah, like just turning 19. It's not. I was doing kid stuff. I wasn't taking anything seriously. Yeah, I was just having fun. It was just another job. So I mean, if I could really go back, it would be pay more attention. Try and kindle better relationships with people in the industry, especially local players. Later on, I was able to build those relationships and leverage them to get me into the position that I am now. But it's making your making yourself available for other people in the industry, doing
Yeah.
favors for people, going out of your way to introduce yourself when you're going out to these events. Find a local meetup. Almost every kind of local hub is going to have some sort of Bitcoin meetup. You just kind of have to find them. Talk to the people in your industry, ask them how they got started, tell them about your skills. What can you do? I would have just tried to work harder on the skills. Maybe actually take like a technician class, because I still can't like fix a PCB board, which is kind of crazy to say after almost 5 years that I still can't replace a ASIC chip. I get to watch all of the repair technicians when they come in and do it, but really my job just revolves around simple minor repairs. So I would have loved to have a better understanding of how the hardware operates and what's really going on. I think that would have been nice and could have maybe helped me grow farther in this field, and something I still can do. But at this point, it's almost cheaper to hire a repair person just to come in and fix a single board than it is to have a repair tech on site, unless you're talking like 100+ megs.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's always more things that you can learn. And the great thing is like, dude, you're 23. I mean, you've got so much time to learn and to just kind of keep growing and iterating and like, oh, this didn't work for me. So like, let's try a new way to do that. So there's definitely like, there's always things that we can change. You know what I mean? So don't beat yourself up too hard.
100%. 100%. Yeah, no, I'm still happy. I'm still happy. I'm content where I am. Never would have imagined it, especially back in school. Neither would the teachers. I'm still waiting on that day. Run into somebody back from high school. It's like,
You're
yeah,
like, by the way, I operate and manage a 50 megawatt site, motherfucker.
not
It's
at
like, what's that?
McDonald's like you expected
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah, that's
It's
fun.
just, I'm just thinking about that too. It's like the things that I'm doing now versus like what I thought I would be doing 10 years ago. I'm in a completely different place, and it's odd, you know, like I used to make fun of podcasters like, oh, that's not a job. What are you doing?
Mhm.
What are you doing? That's not that you're not even doing anything. It's like, bro, do you know how hard, do you know how much I do? I'm like constantly doing something revolving around creating content, editing content, like trying to figure out what the best way to do it is. It's a process. It's not as like stressful as what you're doing, but it still has its like stressors.
Yeah, man, I hate when I don't like when things are compared like that, because
Right.
everything really does have its own problems, and that you're anybody from the outside looking in, they're just not going to really understand it. But it doesn't take away from it in any sense. There's yeah, I would imagine trying to coordinate a few people every week to get them at a specific time to then record the video, then be okay with how the video went, to then be okay. Couldn't imagine. Couldn't imagine, nor am I envious.
we all have our roles to play, man. Like it is what
Sure.
it is. So last question, Folk, and you know what I'm gonna ask. What does Bitcoin mean to you?
Bitcoin means to me, in the traditional sense, just freedom. Freedom. It gives the everyday person the ability to change their life in ways that people really just don't even understand. You don't have to be a genius. You don't even really have to be that smart. You just kind of have to buy or mine and then do nothing. Just retire.
Yeah.
Hold forever. Hold forever. To me, Bitcoin's the opportunity of a lifetime. It's an opportunity of a lifetime that many people are going to miss, and it's why I love things just like your show that gets the word out there, that lets people know that, like, hey, the future is bright as long as you go towards the right path.
Yeah. Don't make. I mean, you don't have to be that bright to be in Bitcoin and to like secure a lot of wealth, store a lot of wealth. But really, let's be honest here. It only takes one stupid decision to fuck it all up.
Sugarcoating it for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
sugarcoating the whole
I
thing.
mean,
Yeah, you can make some mistakes.
yeah. And
You
people
can buy
have.
shit coins.
I should. That's one way to make a huge mistake, man. I'm yelling at my uncle right now. He's all like, I'm up $1,200 on my XRP," and I'm like, "You're gonna be down $1,600 if you're not careful."
Yeah,
You know,
Dad hit me up the other day saying that he just threw $20 in on Doge. I was like, oh,
like,
at least it's
I've.
mineable.
It's
At
like,
least it's mineable.
I haven't done anything right. I have not been. At least my father-in-law, like my father-in-law is the only person that listened to me back in 22 when I told him to buy Bitcoin. You know, because I told everybody buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin. He's the only person that listens to me. And every day, you know, we talk wherever we talk, he's like, "So it was the best decision I ever made. I'm up over 600%. I'm this, I'm that." And he's like, "I just keep buying more." He called me yesterday. Bitcoin dipped to like 93 from 105. He called me yesterday. He's like, "I was so pissed. I didn't have any money to buy Bitcoin."
Yeah, that's the outlook to have right there. Man, talking about easy mistakes to make, being emotional. It's being able to look at something like that and look at it just like your uncle did and say, "Man, I don't got enough cash to buy," opposed to what happened to my portfolio.
Yeah, that's it, you know, like I know people who have bought, like they finally bought and then Bitcoin dipped like I want to say 15%. You know, I know someone who bought in at 98 and then it dipped to 92 and he's calling me and he's freaking the fuck out. He is freaking out. And I'm like, calm down. It's fine. You've been in for 3 days. Chill. You know what I mean? Like it happens. And yeah, just being able, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned throughout my very short journey of being a Bitcoiner is to not be so emotional. Just like realize there are dynamics, supply curve, you know, heuristics, whatever you want to call it. It will go up, it will go down. And as long as your strategy is to buy steadily, you know, DCA, and not pay attention to the price that much, you're going to be fine. You're going to make it out. Like that's the best thing about Bitcoin is you are securing your wealth, your energy, your time in something that can't be debased. And that means what you earn is what you save. You know, so like my uncle, his whole thing is trying to get rich quick so he can make up for past mistakes. I understand the mindset, but it's the completely wrong mindset to have when you're trying to secure wealth and hold it for the future.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more, man. Yeah, I think it's the path that more people should follow.
Yeah, it takes time, man. It takes
It
time.
does.
It takes burning yourself on the hot stove. It takes learning from those lessons, and no amount of maxis are telling you that you're doing the wrong thing is going to teach you not to do the wrong thing. So
Nope. Got to make that first mistake.
exactly. Well, shoot, man. Leave our audience with a last bit of advice, or last final word.
Yeah, without being too cringy, zoom out a little bit.
That's good. I like it. Where can people find you if they want to follow your work or see what you're doing, or just say hi?
Yeah, check me out on Twitter or on X at folkdozil. And really, that's about it.
Cool.
That's about it.
Awesome. I'll make sure that that's linked in the show notes. Thank you so much, folk, for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time today. Guys, you know what it is. It's time to like, comment, subscribe. Leave me a message if you enjoyed this episode. Please follow. Make sure to help us get to 1,000 people subscribed to the podcast this year. It was a crazy journey watching us go from 0 to 300 this year or last year, and so now I'm like, let's get to 1,000. We got this. So
Easy.
Appreciate everybody for tuning in and for being part of the podcast. Folk, I appreciate you and what you do in the space and for the podcast and all that. So thanks. We'll see you guys next time.
Adios.